Today, I want to talk to women, and I want to listen to this very carefully. Peace in your home. If you want happiness in your home, if you want joy in your home, if you want to excel in marriage, then you must listen to these episodes. So let's dive in now. Now, are you a wise woman or a foolish woman? How am I going to become a blessing to my generation? And in every field that don't forget to like, love, share with your family, with your friends, and with even your enemies. Thursday, 9 p.m. we'll be here live. Please make sure you join us. Hi, welcome to another episode of the 20 Minutes with Pkay. Today, I want to talk to women, and I want to listen to this very carefully. I have seen too many cases of broken homes, unfulfilled expectations with women, and I want to talk to you about 7 women that every woman should learn from in the Bible, and that will change the trajectory of your life. If you want peace in your home, if you want happiness in your home, if you want joy in your home, if you want to excel in marriage, then you must listen to these episodes. So let's dive in now. No, the Bible talking about the fact that in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1, it says, a wise woman builds her home, but with her own hands, the foolish woman tears it down. Now, are you a wise woman or a foolish woman? If you're a home builder, then God would, then you have to, you are the one responsible for building your home. A man could live in many houses, but you are the only one that can make a man live in a home. It's like, but you are the builder of a home. You are the builder of a home. The womb is a building factory. It's not just for building children, it's also for building homes. That's why you're a womb man, you're a woman that can build, you're a builder, you're a builder. Someone that does not have a womb cannot birth a child. So a woman, so how a man cannot birth a home. It may have the money to buy a house, but it cannot birth a home. It's only a woman that can birth a home. So a woman believes in her husband. It's not a passive sentiment. It's active faith that either constructs a legacy or destroys a destiny. So, and that's why I want to talk to you about 7 women. You know, as a pastor, I, some of these things are the lessons I've done when I do trade, marriage, sermons or counseling. I just wanted to be available to all Christian women. You could listen to this and your life will change. And I'm shocked. I'm going to tell you certain things that will shock you. And I'm going to start with very absurd ones, because you would find out that there are no reasons for the women to do many things that they do. I will talk about the men too next week. So watch out for the men's own. You understand? But this is going to be the fact that you're going to be a biblical woman. You're going to be a biblical woman. And you're going to be a woman who is a builder of a home, who raises up a home, and you're going to do mighty things. Now, the first thing I want to talk to you about is in 1 Samuel chapter 25, verse 1 to 24. It's a story of a woman called Abigail. And the fact that Abigail was married to Nabal, and Nabal was a fool. Now, every time I talk to women, the first thing they always tell me, especially when they're in difficult relationship with their husbands, is that their husband is a fool, or is making foolish decision, or he's just being abnormally unwise. You understand? So, and I said to them that there's one woman who lived with a fool and still successfully lived with a fool. So, irrespective of if your husband is a fool, then it now beholds on you to become an Abigail. Once you're an Abigail, you can marry a fool and still protect the fool. You can save your foolish husband, because the times the men who have been foolish. I know that inside of every man, there's both a king and a fool. You understand? But Abigail was someone who knew how to speak to the king in the man, not to the fool in the man. Abigail was someone who lived with a fool and successfully did well. And that was the reason why when the husband died, the king pursued her. How many people would the king make after the husband has married somebody else? Will he come and marry again and say, you know what, I want to marry you? No, Abigail was that kind of a woman, and that's the reason why we need to study her. Now, Abigail had David had planned to kill Nabal, but Abigail did something. In fact, if you study Abigail very well, you will understand that Abigail did not even talk to David about Nabal about the plans that she was going to have. When God has given you wisdom, it is foolishness to discuss it with a fool. You understand? So you've got to understand that. At times you have to take action for your home, to protect your home, irrespective of your husband. And Abigail is the classic example of of such a woman. And I pray to God that you will become an Abigail kind of woman in your generation. Because many times we have a lot of men who have become fathers without becoming men. You understand? They're babies, but I mean, they become husbands. And it's not just that thing that works between their legs that makes a man a man. It is the ability to rise in life. And many times we've not seen men rise up in life. So those things have to go. So wisdom can compensate for woman's foolishness. I say, and you can always take action. A woman can take action to prevent disaster. So if you notice that your husband is not doing anything, but then you wake up and do some things, you protect your family from disaster. A wise woman, a wise one knows how to step in diplomatically. There was a time when she went to meet David. I said, David, you cannot do this. You cannot do this. You can honor your husband's position while you are correcting his mistake. So the husband is the head of the family. So you can honor him without and correct his mistakes, and that's what you do. And God always rewards a woman who acts wisely in crisis. There are lots of excuses. There are lots of reasons why you can walk out of a home because of a foolish woman, foolish man. But I speak to you that take the lesson from Abigail, and it will change your story. Now, the second thing in which I want to talk to you about is about Ruth. Ruth was a woman who was loyal, and at the end of the day, God birthed the David through her. You understand? I want to talk to a woman. One of the things that have been difficult in these days is to see loyal people who can persevere no matter the crisis, and that crisis should not define us. Crisis should not stop us from becoming everything that God wants us to be. Look at Ruth. Ruth was married to a man, and the man died, and she pursued Ruth's husband's mother. You understand? Despite the fact that there was no likelihood that it was going to come out well. You understand? It tells me one thing, that the women that would win in life are going to be the selfless, courageous, loyal women. And Ruth is an example of that. Her husband kind of died. But instead of crying over her barrenness or crying over the fact that she doesn't have a husband, she said to Naomi, he said, your God will be my God, your people my people. When you marry, when women marry, they do not just marry the man, they marry the man's God, and they marry the man's people. So carefully, that's why Christian women should not marry men of other faith, because you're marrying they are gods. You understand? So you must marry the person of your own. You're going to marry the person's God. So if you're going to marry someone who is an unbeliever and you think that the person will change, you're going to marry his God. You understand? So make up your mind to marry the God that when you marry someone, you're going to marry the person's God, and you're going to marry the person's people. He said, your God will be my God, and your people my people. So that tells me that you got to understand how these things work. So the book of Ruth tells us all the stories, you understand? Your faithfulness to God, as Stephen can inspire a man, and therefore it can also inspire a generation. Now, women are not being taught to be faithful again. My mom, and is an example of faithfulness, staying in the game, no matter the circumstances. She's still in the game. You understand? So, and today she's a recipient of a reward that for those who are staying in the game, as Ruth is. I mean, the amazing thing about Ruth was that when David said that one of his greatest goals in life was that he would go into the house of the Lord, was because he had a Moabite ancestry, and therefore, until the 10th generation, they were not permitted to go into the house of God. But you don't have all those kind of challenges now. The blood of Jesus has saved you from all that. So you must understand that. So the next person to follow is Ruth. You must partner in providence. You must be faithful. You must be loyal. And those are the things that God looked at and helped. Now, I want to talk to you about another person that I want to talk to you about that you must learn from is Delilah. Delilah. And you'll be surprised. Delilah in Judges chapter 16. Why would I talk to you about Delilah? In life, I learn from both the good and from the bad. I learn from those who have done well and those that have not done well. From the good, so that I learn how to repeat, how to model goodness, and from the bad, so that I learn not what not to do in life. But in Delilah's own case, I'm asking every believer, every child of God, to learn the secret and the tool of Delilah, because the enemy does not create. The enemy has no creative power. The enemy just uses what God has created and tries to upturn it and use it for his own good. Now, this is going to be a lesson for every woman. You understand? Delilah in 1 Samuel chapter 6 betrayed Samson's trust. I'm not going there and caused his blindness. No, that's what I'm going to make you learn from. But I want you to learn, how did Delilah get to the heart of Samson? How did Delilah get to the heart of Samson? And I want to challenge everyone listening to me, every Christian woman listening to me, for the next 1 year. Before you speak to your husband, put his head on your laps and see what will happen. And see, make sure that your husband's head is on your lap before you ask him anything. You understand? Many times, women, I believe that Christian women I mean, from what I can gather from a lot of what I call it now, from counseling, is that women go, you ask your husband, you went to school now, you should learn how to know. Don't assume anything. Before you ask him anything, just make sure his head is on your lap. Make sure. That's what I want you to get from Delilah. Before you ask your husband anything, you understand that? Make sure his head is on your lap and ask him anything. You understand? Now, the way to a man's heart is his head on your heart, on your lap. So once you get that sorted out, when your husband comes in, you want to talk to him, you want to put his head on your lap. Let women learn to put the heads of their husbands on their lap before they before they ask a thing. That's how you learn from people who are really, really bad. Now, other person I want you to learn from is Rahab. Rahab was a woman who, in the Bible says that God was going to come and judge the people of Jericho, and Jericho was tightly stripped, and there was a wall around it. There was something that Rahab did. Everybody was afraid, but Rahab took action. So there are times that there's always going to be fear in the land. I mean, there was the pandemic fear, there probably this fear of Trump coming to bomb Nigeria, or the fear of maybe relocation. There's going to be fear. Every woman should learn from Rahab. What did Rahab do? Rahab did something that most women do not understand. That whenever you take action in the light of your future, you're not only saving your family, you're saving yourself, you're going to save your family. You understand? You must believe God. You must have courage to take action in the light of your family. You understand? Now, so the harlot Rahab now becomes one of the genealogies of Jesus because of how she believed the prophecies of God and how she took actions. Now, every action you take in life, in your marriage, must always have your family as the basis of why you're taking those actions. Don't take actions based on yourself alone. Take action so that your family is protected from what is going on in the land. Always take action to protect your family from what is going on in the land. And once you do that, you would always create a new legacy, that your past will not be your future, and that God will use you to do mighty things. So when Rahab hid the Israeli spies in her house, there was something that she was doing. There was something she was doing. She was trying to build a legacy for her family. And that's very important. So it tells me one thing, that your path towards life, should be living not for yourself, not for your own pleasure, but for your family. If any woman takes care of her family, she would build a new legacy. She would build a new legacy. So, and that's how great women build their legacy. I want to talk to you about another woman who is another very beautiful woman, is Esther. How did Esther handle Mordecai? So Esther become queen, and that's how I want to handle enemies. I want to handle people. But anytime, and it's just about wisdom, about applications, about doing things well, about doing things right, about doing things excellently well. Now, When Esther was going to handle the matter, Esther, when the king came in, Esther did something for the king. Esther prepared a meal for the king. After the meal, Esther now, not in 1 day, 2 days. I think wise women should learn from Queen Esther that your seeing your husband is not the time to tell him the things that are going on. You let him calm down. You let him eat. You let him settle down. You sort out his mind, then before you say what you want to say. Many wise women understand that access to the man is not the time to expose every challenge. You must expose a challenge at the time in which you want your man to be able to take action in it. So wise women must understand that and how to pray to God, because in the Bible, the Bible has given us biblical wisdom so that we could understand these things and do them. And if you understand these things and do them, then God will bless you. Now, in Luke chapter 1, I'll talk to you about another woman that you must also learn from. The woman is Elizabeth, who believed God's impossible promise. You understand? In these days and age, the Bible says that the angel came to meet John, um, to meet Zachariah the prophet and Elizabeth. But there was something that happened to him, and Elizabeth tells me how women must understand how to do these things. Women must have their own encounters with God, because if you do not have an encounter with God, when your husband fails, you would also be paralyzed. So here was the angel. The angel came to meet the priest, and he told the priest, "You are going to have a child." And the priest disbelieved, and the angel immediately made him dumb. Now, what did he do? What did Elizabeth do? Elizabeth believed the miracle with gratitude. Elizabeth went in seclusion to protect the pregnancy. You must learn how to protect what God is about to do in your life. It's not everything that you show to the people. She went into seclusion to protect the pregnancy. Now, and that's the reason why when Mary was carrying something, the baby in Elizabeth lived, because Elizabeth was a carrier of something. So now the truth is that you must understand that Zechariah, who was the prophet, had missed it, but Elizabeth did not miss it. So you can carry faith for both you and your husband where your husband is in doubt. Many times, men are in doubt because of the realities of what they go through in life. Men are in doubt because of what the magnitude of the realities of what they're going through. So it's a woman's goal to carry the faith when a man's doubt has prevailed over him. Now, God may use you when your husband cannot be used. So you must understand that you must position yourself to be used by God, even when your husband cannot be used. And your spiritual sensitivity really matters, because if Elizabeth was not sensitive to the spirit, then something would happen. They would have missed something. Now, you must support your husband through the time of his own silence, because God had silenced him and he could not speak. And because he could not speak, it was the woman that now spoke. When they wanted to name the child, they said they wanted to name the child after his fathers. And she said, "Not so." Now that prophetic word, "not so." She said, "Not so, not so, not so. His name shall be called John." And so, but the husband could not speak. But she that was in tune with the Spirit of God was able to say, "Not so." Therefore, the pattern, they wanted to name him after the fathers. They wanted to name him after the pattern of his father's house. He said, "Not so." So it's a woman's responsibility to stand so that her sons and her children will not be patterned after their husband or their father's family. You understand? If the father has been an adulterer, they say, "No, you will not so. You will not be an adulterer. You will not be this." It's the woman that will stand and make sure that those things can do those things. So Elizabeth did that, and those are the things in which I want you to understand. Now, finally, I'll be talking to you about Sarah, the woman who laughed but later believed. Look, let me talk about Sarah, then I also talk about Hannah. Okay, so let's talk about Sarah. You understand? When the Bible talk about Sarah, every time I say the Bible, I say that, Abraham didn't believe God, and the Bible says that it was counted for righteousness. But if you look at Hebrews chapter 11, I think from verse 8, the Bible says that Sarah received faith as she conceived. she judged God faithful. It meant that for the miracle to take place in the home, there was the role of the woman to judge God faithful. Now, and that's the reason why when Job's wife was going through those things, he said, "No, don't be like those evil women that judge God's unfaithful." Every woman was led to judge God faithful, because at every particular point in time, every challenge is they're going to come, they're going to be judging God. Is God faithful or is God not faithful? And if you judge God unfaithful, you probably will be weakening the resolve of your husband to fight and win the battle in life. And that's why it's important that you must do that. The final one I want to talk to you about is Hannah, the woman whose prayer birthed a child. And at the end of the day, what happened to him? It changed the destiny of the nation. In our church, we believe in God, that God is going to raise up world changers. There's no what the generation of world changers, in my opinion, started with Samuel. And it started with Samuel because Hannah was the woman who said, "Give me a son or kill me. Give me a child or let me die." She cried that prayer. And out of that birthing came Samuel. Israel was a nation of prophets. But when Samuel came on stage, Israel now became a nation, not of priests, but of what? Of kings. Samuel changed the trajectory of a nation. But that was birthing prayer. So what's your prayer like? What are you birthing? What are you birthing? What Samuels are you birthing? What Samuels are you birthing? You know, John Wesley's mother was someone who also birthed John and Charles Wesley. Susanna Wesley birthed John and Charles Wesley. And today we have English Revolution. There was no English Revolution because of the man who was birthed in the place of prayer. I want to believe that every world changer can only be birthed by a praying mom. So you got to start praying for your children. You got to start praying for your children. You got to start praying for your children. And once you start praying for your children, things will happen again. Now, these are examples of the women that you must follow. If you look at this woman, go through the what I've told you about, look at it again. You will find out that you will transform people. People will be transformed, and your society will be transformed. Marriages will be transformed. You will not be like the pagan woman. You will be like woman. You will be like the Proverbs 31 woman who makes a way, who does her things rightly. You understand? Your husband will be in the place of the kids. Those are things. If you do these things, your life will never remain the same. And I challenge you to do them. I challenge you to look at them. I challenge you to pray the Spirit and pray these things over your life. And you will see that there will be no case of broken home any longer, because of the fact that even if you are married to a fool, you understand, God will give you the wisdom to conquer him. God bless you. See you same time. Next time I'll be talking about the 7 men that every man should marry so that you never leave your home. So give it that to your husband so that your husband will see that it's a balanced message. God bless you.